why are unnamed sources, or why are anonymous sources so important to what we do as reporters?
I wish more than anything in the whole wide world that many of our sources would come to the public fore. You get more authenticity and people believe it more if someone puts their name to it. There's no question about it. And we push people to go on the record every day at the Washington Post, and I'm sure you do as well. Every journalist does. There are people who have information inside the room who are too afraid of their career, their national security clearance, their ability to continue to do the work they do if they share the unvarnished truth. And in my career, separate from this book, in my career, if we hadn't had some anonymous sources be brave enough, honestly, to share some of what they had to tell us, we never would have learned about abuses of the court system. We never would have learned about improper, broad brush spying on domestic Americans who had done nothing wrong. If we hadn't had these kinds of folks willing to speak to us anonymously, which I know it's hard to believe, but sometimes that takes a lot of bravery to come forward and say, okay, I'm risking my career to tell you this. There are a lot of things the public wouldn't know. The reason some of these people wanted to be anonymous in the book, there are two main reasons, although it doesn't cover every single person. Most of the individuals in this book are Republicans, people who went to work for the president as political appointees, as senior advisors, as friends and supporters, as allies, as legal counsel, as you get the picture.
Yeah.
And these are not people gunning for Donald Trump, but they did feel when we came around, Phil and I, saying, look, we want to understand better what happened here. We want to get the history right. And if we don't get history right, then what's the point of this book? They finally, bent. They finally said, okay, you want to know what it's really like. It's important to me that you get it right. And they shared it. Their fear about being named falls into these two categories. One, the president's Twitter megaphone is a powerful punishment tool, and he's used it that way. He has gone after, for example, Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman. What is he deserving of all this retaliation from the president, being called a deep stater? How does he deserve that? He was subpoenaed. He testified honestly about what he heard in that call on July 25th between the president and Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine. And he honestly answered the question that he was concerned about that call and thought it was, if not illegal, at least improper. He felt strongly that you can't ask a foreign government to investigate an American citizen and get a foreign government involved in a political fight domestically in the United States. It's so logical. But he was a victim. And this group of sources feels that way too, fearful that that could happen. There's another group, though, that feels it's inappropriate for them to criticize a sitting commander-in-chief. And we've had a lot of people criticize that group. A lot of people say to us, how come those people don't stand up? If they're so worried that Donald Trump is a danger, a clear and present danger to the country, why don't they stand up? And I can't speak for them. I don't want to stereotype their answers other than to say this is their strong feeling. They might speak when he's no longer president.
What were the circumstances in which one of the president's senior administration officials realized that the president did not know the circumstances behind the attack on Pearl Harbor, December 7, 1941?
In November 2017, President Trump and his wife Melania were traveling to Asia, and one of the planners for the trip thought, it's such a long flight. Let's let them stop in Hawaii and keep on going from there. It was going to be a week-long trip, so it was a good idea to take a rest break. While they were in Hawaii, they were going to take a tour of the USS Arizona, the memorial to all of the troops who were essentially, in a watery grave as a result of the Japanese attack at Pearl Harbor that propelled us into World War II as a nation. But while they're boarding the boat for the USS Arizona, the president turns to his chief of staff, John Kelly, and says, what's this all about, John? Where are we going? What's this tour of? So Kelly begins, according to the witnesses we talked to later, begins to give him a tutorial about what happened at Pearl Harbor. The president knew a battle happened there. He just didn't know all the details. And I want to say something that I think is important about the president's ignorance of so much of the America's story and about our pillars. It's one thing not to know. It's one thing not to have this information, which, you know, 8th grade students have, not all of them, but many of them. It's another thing that our sources tell us that worries them the most about the president, which is that he's not willing to take in the information that our huge, enormous firmament of the U.S. government makes available to him every day. He doesn't want to read. He doesn't want to hear the briefing. As he says so many, many times, I've got this.
Carol Leonnig, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you for
Yeah,
this
congratulations to you and Phil.
interview. Oh, thank you.